Well, good evening and welcome. I'm Robert Wilson with Cowboy Wisdom Podcast. Tonight's 7 ways why everything you think, know, and have always done is your biggest limitation. And that is also everything you think, know, and always done is your biggest limitation. That's in business also. Everything you think, everything you know, and everything you've always done is the architectures of your limitations. Not because you failed, but because your entire inner operating system was built for who you used to be, not who you're becoming or choosing to be. Your thoughts are old maps. Your knowledge is inherited memory. That's something to really understand. Knowledge is inherited memory. Your habits are survival patterns dressed up as the right way. You're never limited by the world. You're limited by the version of yourself you keep replaying. I'm a living example of that one. And see, that's the thing about anger and all that. We keep replaying that. And that's an inherited mind version of yourself. The mind worship what it already knows, even when it knows is the cage. It clings to familiar even when the familiar is a trap. And how many times have you keep trying to do it the way you've always done and you think you know, but you end up in the same rat-a-tat trap crap? I have. I'd like to say I did none of this. I let somebody else did it and this guy did it. That's the thing. No, I did it all to myself. It clings to the familiar even when the familiar is the trap. It protects your past even when your past is the problem. I can relate to that one. Everything you've always done feels safe because your nervous system equates change with threat and uncertainty with threat. But liberation, it calms that nervous system down. So you call your patterns discipline, your hesitation logic, and your limits reality. But they're none of these things. They're just the past refusing to surrender control. Your biggest limitation isn't the lack of potential, it's loyalty to your old identity. Where do you see you're loyal to your old identities? I see that in mine all the time. But now I have the courage to question them, listen, and rise out of them. That's something else. I never change. I never do this. I rise out of everything. That way I leave it behind. It isn't the lack of opportunity. It's attachment to your old ways. It isn't lack of intelligence. It's a devotion to your old knowing. And see, I took intelligence and all that stuff out of my life because I used the word wisdom. Because wisdom is of the now. The moment you see this, the spell breaks. The moment you question your knowing, your real wisdom, your authentic wisdom wakes up. The moment you stop repeating your past, your future finally has room to arrive and thrive in your here and now. This is a frequency where transformation begins. Why everything you think and know and have always done are your biggest limitations. Your mind recycles the past, so you mistake familiarity for truth. Your brain runs on patterns. It prefers what it already knows, even if what it knows is small, outdated, or harmful. You think the same thoughts, so you feel the same emotions. So you make the same choices. See, whatever happens out here in front of you, your mind is looking, as soon as it occurs and it goes into the mind, it's looking for something that makes it feel safe. That's how you get into your old representations and repetitions of your old self and your emotional snapshots, soul, uh, soul tattoos, all that, because it's all inside you, but it's a comfort zone. So you get the same life. This loop feels right only because it's familiar, never because it's wise. Your biggest limitation is the illusion that your current worldwide view is reality instead of novelty, when it's just repetition. Your identity becomes a cage built from your own stories. I relate to that one because we like staying inside our comfort zone stories. Everything you know about yourself, I'm this kind of person, I don't do that, I've always been like this, it's just a story you've rehearsed so long, feels like a fact. As identity is your self-imposed boundaries, the moment you defend who you are, you block who you could become. Your limitation is not your ability, it's your loyalty to an outdated version of yourself. Your habits automate your life so you stop noticing your own potential. See, your potential is beyond your comfort zone. What you've always done becomes invisible. Habits turn into autopilot and mental autopilots. Autopilot turns into stagnation. You never question your routines because they feel normal. As normal is just the prison you stop noticing. I noticed that a lot in my life. I've had that, like when, uh, like Facebook changes the algorithm, and I kind of come back to something new. I finally learned it's never new. It's always fresh, and you feel more excited and fresh than you do new. I do anyway. But normal is just a prison you stop noticing. Your biggest limitation is the comfort of the known, because comfort kills evolution. That's true. When indoctrinated education shuts off inspiration, imagination, innovation, intuition, and fresh wisdom to stay inside your comfort zone programming. Uh, Everything wants to keep us inside social obedience over originality. Your mind learns to fear its own creativity or innovation. Indoctrinated education trains you to memorize instead of imagine. Have you ever witnessed that in your life? I have. But now I like my imagination, my inspiration to roam the world and see the instigating ingenuity it awakens me with. Repeat instead of questions. Comply instead of create. When the system praises you for getting the right answer, your brain stops exploring the unknown. You learn to self-censor your intuition because anything unconventional feels like a threat to approval. That kills inspiration at the root. It conditions you to trust authority more than your own inner wisdom. How do you trust authority more than your inner wisdom? We all do, because we've always been taught the outside world knows more than us, and it doesn't. It's just got an old way of keeping us in our comfort zone. The teacher knows, the book knows, the system knows. You don't. And when you stay inside the teacher and the book and all the system, you never rise out of it. So you outsource your thinking, your intuition becomes background noise, your imagination becomes immature, your innovation becomes disruptive. This creates a mental dependency loop where you wait for permission to think differently and permission never comes. It normalizes the comfort zone survival instead of possibility-driven growth. Indoctrinated education trains you to follow schedules, rules, expectations, and other people's pathways. But it really teaches you to follow their trails of normalcy. The system's goal is stability, never evolution. It shapes you into someone who says predictable, manageable, and safe, even if that safety suffocates your potential. Your imagination, intuition threaten the comfort zone. It does mine every once in a while. I'd like to, oh no, not no more, you can't do that. That's not true. Every time, once in a while, my imagination, intuition, inspiration, my comfort zone's in it. It kind of gets that squeaky wheel in it. So the system teaches you to shut them down before they can disrupt anything. Why college education and PhD programming encompass an ancestor mindset. It's built on intellectual inheritance, never intellectual evolution. Higher education is structured around a canon that structured around ideas, theories, and frameworks created by people that are long gone. Where do you witness that in the school system in life? You're trained to cite them, defend them, build within their boundaries. This means you're never learning how to think from zero. You're learning how to think inside ancestral architecture. How would it feel to realize you've never really had a thought of your own? Because it's always inside something else. The past becomes the blueprint. Your originality gets filtered through yesterday's worldview. Sometimes it comes out PU. It rewards mastery of old knowledge, never creation of fresh paradigms. To succeed in academia, you must prove you understand the established literature, align with existing methodologies, replicate, accept forms of reasoning. Innovation is allowed only if it fits the system existing vocabulary. So even your fresh ideas must be expressed in old language, shaped by old assumptions. The system never evolves you, it inducts you into its lineage. It trains you to protect the tradition instead of disrupt it. PhD culture, especially, is built on gatekeeping, peer review, hierarchy, and tradition. These mechanisms preserve stability, never transformation, or broadcasting your brilliance. You're conditioned to become a guardian of the intellectual past, never a breaker of patterns. Where do you see that in your life? I still see that in my life once in a while, but I'm getting sore. I really want to be the breaker of patterns so I can stroll and be chauffeured out into the unknown, which is my unlimited nirvana. Your intuition, imagination, and disruptive insight get trimmed down to fit the expectations of the academic tribe. Why all education is always from past, never getting to the now. Education is built on archive knowledge, never active awareness. Everything you're taught, facts, theories, frameworks, was discovered before you were born. Education is a museum of human thought, never a living organism. That's true. Education is a museum of human thought, never a living organism. It hands you conclusions, already made models, already defined, interpretations already frozen. You're trained to navigate yesterday's map, never today's terrain. And something else I've understand now is my mind is trained to be the same today as yesterday. The now is too fluid, too unpredictable, too alive, and too alive for standardized teaching. Systems can only teach what they can measure, and the present can never be measured. The present moment is intuitive, creative, innovative, emergent, nonlinear. Institutions can't quantify that. So they default to what can be tested, past knowledge. This means education becomes a replication engine, never a consciousness or awareness expanding and energizing the experience. The now requires presence. Education requires predictability. These two rarely coexist. The past feels safe, the now feels disruptive. Education's job is to stabilize society, never reinvent it. So it leans on tradition, precedent, and established norms, inherited structures. That's something I've really opened up to. My inherited nervous system creates my mind-invented lifestyle. Adaptability, excuse me. Ooh, that was a good one. Adaptability qualities that can be controlled or standardized. So the system keeps you anchored in the past because the past is manageable while the present is transformational or life expanding. While indoctrinated education programs your comfort zone that you use to react to your daily life experiences. It conditions your nervous system to equate familiar with safe, so anything new feels like danger. From childhood, the system trains you to sit still, follow instruction, avoid mistakes. See, we don't make mistakes, we create awakenings. Seek approval. Your body learns that predictability is survival. So when your life throws something unfamiliar at you, your comfort zone programming kicks in automatically. You never respond from intuition, you respond from your social obedient conditioning. Your reactions are never you, they're the echoes of how you were trained. It teaches you to prioritize external validation over internal truth. Grades, rankings, gold stars, praise, these become your emotional currency. So in your daily life, you react to situations based on, will this make me look good? Will I be judged? Am I doing it right? Instead of, is this aligned with who I am? What do I actually feel? Your comfort zone becomes a performance zone, and your action become a rehearsed behaviors instead of authentic responses, rising you up to your trail of triumph. It programs you to avoid discomfort instead of outgrow through it. Indoctrinated education punishes uncertainty, experimentation, failure, deviation. So your mind learns to retreat whenever life gets unpredictable. Daily challenges trigger the same pattern: avoid, shrink, comply, repeat. Your comfort zone becomes a mental cage disguised reaction become predictable because the system trains you to fear the unknown and uncertainty. Why indoctrinated education, it programs your comfort zone that reacted to your daily life experiences, make today's outcome mirror yesterday's outcome. It wires your brain to repeat patterns instead of create innovative possibilities. Doctrine education trains you to operate through routine, predictability, and repetition. That's why I'm saying when something happens out there and your mind does it, and you bring it back into your mind, it's looking for the predictability and the repetition that fits that. That's why change is hard to do, but liberation's easy, because when you use liberation, that event gets released and doesn't have the same effect on your repetitions. So your nervous systems become addicted to sameness. When your daily life presents a situation, your mind never responds from presence. Pulls from the old pattern. It pulls from the old pattern library it was trained to rely on. Yesterday's thinking becomes today's reaction. Yesterday's reaction becomes today's outcomes. The loop sustains itself because the system taught you to trust the past more than present moment. It conditions you to solve fresh problems with new problems with old frameworks. That's why we stay the same. We use the same frameworks. Education gives you a formula for awareness. It teaches you what worked before, never what's emerging here and now. So when life hits you with something unfamiliar, you unconsciously reach for the same beliefs, same coping mechanism, the same interpretation. This makes your present a replay of your training, never a fresh experience. Your outcomes stay the same because your internal operating system never updates. Where have you seen that in your life? I see that in my life. But now everything is an awareness, so everything is always I'm always asking questions and always listening for a fresh path. The instincts that would it suppresses the instincts that would break the cycle. Your intuition, imagination, and inner wisdom are the forces that innovate fresh outcomes. As indoctrinated education teaches you to distrust intuition, that one, I've done that myself. Now I listen for my intuition. Avoid uncertainty, fear mistakes, stay inside the known. So when life gives you a moment that could shift everything, your comfort zone programming pulls you back into the familiar. Today becomes a photocopy of yesterday because the system trains you to avoid the unknown and fresh outcomes. Why today's physical world mirrors the past. The world you see is built from yesterday's beliefs, never today's awareness. Most people never meet reality directly. They meet it through inherited assumptions, old interpretation, conditioned reactions. So the physical world becomes a projection of mental software. You're never seeing now, you're seeing the past replaying itself through your expectations, fears, and habits. When the mind stays old, the world stays old. Your nervous system repeats familiar patterns, so your actions recreate old outcomes. Your body is wired for survival never evolution. It chooses the familiar over the unknown, the unpredictable over the possible, the predictable over the possible, the past over the present. So even when life gives you a fresh moment, you respond with yesterday's reflexes. Your behavior becomes a loop, and the physical world reflects that loop back to you. The warrior truth: if your internal pattern never changes, your external reality can never expand out of yesterday. So society runs on legacy systems that anchor the present to its historical momentum. I see that in my life, but I'm rising out of it because now I have the guts and the ability to question that. Everything around you, institutions, culture, norms, expectations, is built from old structures, old values, and old power dynamics, old world views. The physical world is a monument to what humanity believed before you arrived. Unless you consciously disrupt that momentum, you get swept into it. The past is never behind you. It's the architecture you're walking through. It's the architecture you're walking through. Why communication and people skills mirror our ancestor survival codes stuck in the past. Your brain still reads social interaction as a survival threat, never a modern conversation. Human communication evolved when being rejected by the tribe meant literal danger. So today, your nervous system reacts to disagreement, judgment, conflict, unfamiliar people as if they're predators, never co-workers or strangers. Your communication style becomes defensive, cautious, approval seeking. Do you see that in your life? I got to be real. I got to be very aware of that to rise out of it. Ancient survival coding running in a modern world. You're never reacting to the moment. You're reacting to the past your biology remembers. That's a true statement. You're wired to prioritize belonging over authenticity. So you speak to avoid exile, never to express yourself. Ancestors survived by fitting in. Standing out was risky. That instinct still shapes how people talk today. So communication becomes polite instead of honest, agreeable instead of authentic. I can relate to that. Predictable instead of innovative. People skills become social camouflage, never genuine connection. You're using ancient strategies to avoid being cast out of a tribe that no longer exists. Your instincts interpret social cues through old emotional templates, never present moment awareness. Your reactions to people are filtered through childhood conditioning, inherited fears, old emotional wounds, nervous system inheritance, ancestral vigilance. So when someone speaks to you, you never hear them. You hear echoes of the past experiences. This makes your communication loop repetitive, predictable, and stuck. The warrior truth: if your coding never updates, your outer interactions can never evolve. While energetic liberation, energized listening, maverick questions, to hearken the fresh wisdom of here and now rises you and me out of yesterday. Energetic liberation breaks the gravitational pull of old identity loops. When you liberate your inner energy, you stop running the same stale momentum of who you used to be. Old identity patterns lose their authority. Your awareness stops recycling yesterday's emotions, assumptions, and reactions. Energetic liberation is the warrior act of cutting the cord to the past inertia, so the present can finally speak to you without distortion. Cutting the cord to the past inertia so the present can finally speak to you without distortion. Energized listening tunes you to the frequency of the moment, never the memory of yesterday. Most people never listen, they anticipate, defend, or replay old narratives. I still do, but I'm really being more aware of it to rise out of it. Energized listening is different. It's present sharpened into perception. When you listen from the now and present moment instead of the past, you hearken fresh insights, fresh signals, fresh possibilities. This shifts your trajectory instantly. Fresh wisdom enters because you stop filtering reality through yesterday's wounds or conditioning. Maverick questions disrupt the mental autopilot and force conscious awareness into the present. If you take the word know out of your life or understand and use aware or I'm awakened and aware, see how you feel after you say that. A maverick question is a blade. It slices through assumptions, inherited beliefs, unconscious habits. It forces your mind to stop repeating and start witnessing and observing today. The moment you ask a question the past can never answer, the now steps forward with fresh wisdom. You interrogate this. This is how you rise. You interrogate the old until it collapses and the present unveils itself as your fresh source of prowess. Now, I use the word prowess instead of power because prowess is more about inspiration, intuition. It's a broader, more bolder strength within yourself. Anyway, thank you for being here, and may your evening flow of health, wealth, and abundance. Thank you, and good night.